UNICEF is fully committed to inclusive communication. UNICEF is fully committed to make sure that people with disabilities has full access to our main channels of communication. Every single person should be able to access all our materials, all our communication products in a fully inclusive way. This is part of our commitment to reach the most vulnerable children, but also our commitment to expand our reach, our voice, and to engage everyone in every one of our countries, especially the people who most need our support and who sometimes are going to be critical advocates of our message for children.
To make communication more accessible and promote inclusion, you should do the following. Combine different formats to help get your message across. For example, using a combination of picture, audio captioning, and large text benefits everyone, not just people with disabilities. Children, the elderly, people who speak different languages, or have difficulty reading, they will all appreciate it. Keep in mind the idea of universal design. Think about people's different needs when you begin to create a product, so you don't have to go back and make it accessible later on. With the advance of technology, more and more people with disabilities are using the internet. People with disabilities sometimes also use specific tools or assistive technology to access information. People with visual impairments or dyslexia may use magnifiers to increase text size, braille machines to write, and screen reading software to read. Screen readers will read aloud what is displayed on a computer screen, as long as the information has been made accessible.
When I was in grade 10, one of my teachers did not quite know how I worked, and I told him about my disability and the assistive technology that I use in the beginning of the year. And at the end of the year, he tells me that I got a 0 out of a 10 in my class participation, and I was actually shocked. When I asked him the reason, he was like, well, you don't listen to what I say in the classroom. You always have your earphones on, and you listen to music rather than concentrating in my class. So how do I give you a 10? And that is when I again explained him what screen reader actually meant. Even then, he was like, your keyboard does not have braille. How do you know what you're typing? You're fooling me and you cannot fool me. And then finally, I had to show them this article on Wikipedia describing what a screen reader is and showing him like pictures of blind people actually typing on the computer and actually demonstrating that yes, I could actually type even without vision.
We think that women and children are often less likely than adult men to possess assistive technologies. And our work in Supply Division is increasingly focusing on making quality assistive technology devices for children more accessible, more affordable, and more adaptable for children in low resource settings.
People with hearing impairments may use captioning and sign language to watch video, or use teletext to display what's being said on their phones in text format. You have the opportunity to add captions and transcripts to your videos and bring them to a whole new audience. You can also promote local sign languages, or even learn a few words yourself.
Hello. Good job, let's try that again. Hello. Very good. Now for our second word. Goodbye. And again, goodbye.
Alternatives to keyboards, like voice recognition software, may be used by people with physical impairments. Easy read formats are a combination of images and simple language, and are sometimes used by people with intellectual impairments, although they also benefit children and people with low literacy. As technology advances, more and more information will be available in accessible formats. To promote inclusion and rights, let's get rid of unnecessary barriers. To promote accessibility, there are a few things to consider. First, think about your audience. There are over 1 billion people with disabilities in the world, with 80% living in developing countries. People with disabilities can be involved in the process, design, and evaluation of your communication. Next, think about your formats. Using a variety of formats helps broaden your audience. If your product is text-based, can you create an audio or easy-read version? If you have audio, can you create a text version? Very often, doing these things isn't too time-consuming or expensive. Let your designers, whether they are authors, publishers, or film crews, know that you want your communication to be accessible from the start. Choose a clear structure. Standard headings and a table of contents will help everyone navigate your documents, including people who use screen readers. Use simple language. Try to avoid acronyms, jargon, and foreign words. Here are some more specific tips for creating documents. Use the styling elements that are available in most software, like standard headings as opposed to just using a larger font size. Use standardized lists, like bullets or numbering, rather than manually adding dashes. Use page breaks instead of hitting return multiple times, so that a screen reader doesn't mistakenly think that it's reached the end of a document. Use tables with descriptors, rather than text boxes which screen readers may skip. Use high contrast colors and large font sizes, which also benefit people with low vision. Add descriptions for images and charts. This is called alternative text, alt text, or captioning, and allows people using screen readers to understand what is being displayed on the screen. For most applications, there are easy steps to add alternative text. First, decide why you are including the image or the chart. Is it purely decorative? What does it say? Then right-click on the image. Go to Format Picture. Click Alt Text. Type in the description of the image and press OK or Close. You have just created an accessible image. The same principles apply to the internet, where you should use alternative text to explain where links will take someone, as opposed to just telling them to click here. And with videos, check that there is captioning or add a transcript. YouTube can do this for you, but it isn't always accurate. Use VoiceOver whenever text appears on screen, including during the credits. If a VoiceOver says, "Go here" for more information, that isn't very helpful if you can't see. Instead say, visit our website, www.unicef.org, in both text and in audio. It might take a few more seconds to read it out, but it is the only way to grant access to everyone. So those are a few practical, simple steps that you can apply today. Add structure, combine multiple formats, and define your images. You don't need to be an expert. If you aren't sure, look online or check with your colleagues. You can also use the accessibility check, or ask people with disabilities to test out your work.
For the launch of the State of the World Children Report in Vietnam, it was about children with disabilities, and we had amazing young people from Vietnam who have won the 1 Minute Juniors. When I realized that most of the adolescents who have won were visually impaired, and that everything we had to show them were beautiful videos. That was something that, as a communicator, you have failed from the beginning because you have not really analyzed your target audience and I didn't adapt the sort of communication we needed to the audience. And I think that they are those sort of our day-to-day learnings that we have to apply when really devoting our time to this new module.
When planning for an accessible meeting, the first thing you need to ask yourself, what will the outcome of the meeting be like for all participants? Were all of them included on an equal basis with each other? First, before the meeting, right from the registration and the planning process, you should find out what the accessibility needs are of participants. You should make sure that your websites have accessible information that can be accessed by people with visual impairments. Then you should check your facilities to make sure that all routes and conference rooms are accessible. A good way to do this is to have an accessibility walkthrough with persons with disabilities themselves. Then you should organize a help desk so that the help desk will have a place where people can ask about their accessibility needs. The help desk could also have a resource list where you have lists of accessible hotels, transportation, as well as rental and repair facilities for assistive devices. In creating accessible routes, it's good to have an accessible map that shows accessible restrooms, facilities, and that's very important, that all restrooms, or at least designated restrooms, are fully accessible for persons with disabilities. In addition, everyone that works with the meeting should be briefed about how to work with persons with disabilities, from the terminology they use to the way they address persons with disabilities. Now, during the meeting, you have to make sure that you have volunteers that are well briefed to usher and seat persons with disabilities. For example, wheelchair seating should always be at the end of the aisle, where you remove the chair at the end so that people can have easy access to their desks. When planning for an accessible meeting, it's important to have sign language and closed captioning services, often called CART services. After your successful, inclusive, and accessible meeting, conduct a survey of all participants so you can find and identify gaps so that you can plan for better future meetings. And finally, it doesn't take much to conduct an inclusive and accessible meeting, but it makes a world of a difference to those that attend and benefit from it.
All of us at the US Fund are really proud to be a collaborator in the development of this exciting new module. We really believe it's important to focus on inclusive communication. It enhances fundraisers and advocates' capacities to not only understand, but to address social and cultural norms and to be part of combating stigmas around discrimination and issues that occur and are often reinforced by the stereotypes and terminology used in advocacy and fundraising communications. But even personally as a mom, especially as a mom with a child that has had a disability, I understand how important this incredible training tool will be. And when you combine that with UNICEF's programming that supports the rights and inclusion of children with disabilities, it gives us all an opportunity to do an even better job on our fundraising efforts in this particular area. National committees not only mobilize resources, but we play an important advocacy role. The way we portray children, the way we build our messages, they have a direct impact on how society perceives them and understands the issues they face. Everyone at the US Fund is looking forward to working with our fellow national committees, with the UNICEF Resource Mobilization colleagues, with the Division of Communication and the UNICEF Disability Team. Together, we can develop a strong investment case for children with disabilities.
Over the course of this module, I hope you've learned what inclusive communication is and why it's important. If it weren't for inclusive communication, I might not be standing here talking to you. So I hope that you can find ways to include it in your work. It will benefit children and adults with disabilities all around the world. Thank you for your time.
I think goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.
you.